Good morning. The devotional this morning is entitled Gifts and Givers Remembered. Let me repeat that for you. Gifts and Givers Remembered. They occupy a place in my closet. There are 6 of them, each one different, but each one handsome. They are sweaters. They were given to me by a woman whose husband died while I was interim minister for the congregation. Her husband and I were about the same size, and he loves sweaters as much or maybe more than I do. Sometime after the funeral, I was visiting in the home, wearing a sweater, and she remarked how her husband loved them. She offered to let me pick some of them out of his beautiful collection. I was like a child in a candy store, and I chose 6 of them that I considered to be the most beautiful and the most elegant. What a privilege. Now they occupy a place in my closet, and when I wear one of them, I remember him and her gift to me of the sweaters. A gift remembered, and even more, a giver remembered. On my bookshelves, there are 17 volumes of a set of William Barclay's Daily Word Bible Studies. On the flyleaf of most of the 17 books is a handwritten inscription. The words placed on the volume entitled The Gospel of Luke are these words: "You and yours are very dear to us." Signed, the Kellys, RG and MB. The initials stand for a wonderful couple who were members of the First Christian Church in Duncan, Oklahoma, members of that wonderful congregation that I was privileged to serve for 10 years. I rarely pick up a volume without being reminded of those 2 beautiful people whose generosity and thoughtfulness and love and caring provided me with a set of New Testament commentaries, and I treasure them immensely. Each of the volumes brings back a visual image of a man and woman and an emotional tug at my heart. Gifts given and givers remembered. One of the difficulties with giving money to someone is the possible loss of connection between giver and receiver. The money becomes a means to the desired object or the thing that the person wants. They take the money, buy the desired item, and then it becomes something that the person has purchased. The connection between the giver and the receiver can well be lost. There are any number of ways we can give gifts to others. Some gifts are material, some gifts are verbal, some gifts are just transitional, personal, wonderful gifts. One of the most precious gifts I ever received was from a person that I barely knew. The gift was a verbal gift. After a long drive from Denver, Colorado to Enid, Oklahoma, a friend of our son, Mark, who had volunteered, drove us home from Denver to Enid. Mike and I were seated around the dinner table by ourselves, talking, visiting. I said to Mike, you did such a marvelous job of driving us home today, and I just can't thank you enough. I'd like to pay you." Mike looked intently at me, sighed just a little, and spoke softly these unforgettable words. "Bill," he said, "you can't pay for a gift." His words went right to my heart and struck a bell that has continued to ring every time I think about gifts and giving. The moment was what I have since named as an illuminating spiritual awareness. The phrase, "you can't pay for a gift," has such a dynamic theological thrust. I mean, isn't that the way that both God and Jesus lived? The way that they ministered? The way Jesus carried out his mission? You and I can't pay for the gift of God's love. It is impossible, and it was intended to be impossible. You and I cannot ever pay for the gift of love that comes through Jesus' life and death. You cannot pay for a gift. When Jesus decided to give us a gift to remember, he chose a method where the gift would be indelibly connected with the giver. When we receive the elements of the Lord's Supper, recall, please recall, when we receive the elements of the Lord's Supper, we are invited to remember, and we are connected thereby to the giver. Giver and gift remembered. Jesus' guideline was very intentional. Do this in remembrance of me. The gift and the giver, intertwined, connected. The joy of giving is tremendously enhanced when we are privileged to select a gift that has the enduring quality of being a reminder of the giver. This will call for a careful selectivity for the gifts that we give, especially to those that we love, because we like for the sense of us to be connected, if possible, to the gift that we give. Something that would be useful, meaningful, and carry the message of love, yes, but let it also be a gift that reminds the person of the loving connection between you, the giver, and the gift that you have given. I hope you can find a way to give a gift to those you love and care for, and that you will be able to connect you, the giver, and your gift that you give.